So using intuition
Mm,
was on my mind this morning. Allison, I think from our conversation last night,
mm,
could carry on of it. And what what did you think about intuition before some point and then from like now? And what I'm pointing to is like, oh, where someone may be curious about intuition, um,
mm,
but how would they see it? And
mm.
then what could it be?
Yeah, it's so interesting for me. Um, First of all, I think there's often it's often useful to discern between instinct and intuition.
Hmm.
A lot of people write about intuition, but what they're really talking about is instinct.
Hmm.
And instinct is a valuable part of our creation, you know, but it's mainly an automatic. It
Hmm.
could be an aware. It absolutely could be, but it's also for me. It's mainly rooted in the past.
Yes.
Whereas intuition for me, I love the way that Satguru explains it. He says it is an opening to to a different realm of existence, which we find in consciousness. So now, for a lot of people, if you say that, I mean, they just shut down because they're not interested in that, or they just have no clue of what that means, and no, because they've got no experience of it.
Hmm.
And so I think we kind of ride that experience of, or we not, yeah, I'm not sure the noun that I'm looking for. We either go to, well, that's just not for, I can't possibly have any intuition, or we go to being curious about it. And so I think the best way to facilitate people experiencing it is through the body, and to be curious of what the experience of something is through the body. And in that, using one's imagination. And when you say imagination, people are very comfortable with imagination. And for me, imagination is the bridge to intuition. So it's still not simple enough, I don't think, in terms of answering that question. And I'm trying to go back, Jess, and think about how did I get to being comfortable with intuition, and honestly, I think my answer would be it has so much to do with how much or how often I can untangle an automatic. So every time I untangle one of my automatics, I mean, I can say I let it go, but even if I don't let it go, but I just become aware of it, that provides more space inside of me. And I can use that because the way that I imagine it is our automatics, it takes a lot of energy to keep them relevant, which is why people talk about having a bag of crap that you carry around with you, you know. So I think the energy that it takes to preserve an automatic, when you get to see it, you release an energy, you release vibration that was tight and constricted, and it becomes more expansive. And in that, there's a new experience in your body. That's a good way to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And with that new experience, I believe you touch again on the edges of intuition. So I do think it's something that we need awareness to practice, and we need awareness of being uncomfortable and just going with the first thing. So we need, I think it's good to have a safe place to play and just go with whatever comes and see what lands and what doesn't. And I think the way in which they taught intuition in the coaching course was good. And a lot of people use intuition without recognizing that that's what it is. So it's again about bringing awareness. And I really think the only or the most powerful way in which you can begin to experience it is by being aware of what's taking place in your body. What is your body receiving and doing? So I'll ask Heinz, what is your experience with intuition?
Well, I haven't had that much experience with it. I remember in White Cloud's course, we should use our intuition, and
Mm-hmm.
it became much more of trusting the guess, that you have a feeling that something about this, and then just trust it, go with it.
Mm. Mm.
So I never really worked that much with it because I don't know what it is I'm actually looking for. I think I have a lot of it when I actually need it, but
Yes.
I don't. For a while, I've been just rolling in neutral,
Mm.
rolling through life, not the big obstacles or anything, sort of just enjoying being here.
And I think that's the biggest opportunity that you get to actually meet with your intuition when the impetus is there to do it. And for me, with what you're saying, is what I find matches my experience is that it's not something to be forced. It's something
just
to be
come.
invited.
Ooh, invited.
Hmm.
I have the feeling the thing I invite most is peace. Just
Mm.
relax, flow with it. Don't fight it.
Mm.
And not embellishing it.
Yes.
Like the because it's like fighting is on the negative aspect of it, but then gloating or um,
Yes.
like on so the positive side of that as well. It's like peace is not on the positive side of it either.
Exactly, Jess. I would agree.
It's a neutral.
Hmm I, I couldn't have been able to say it that, like call it that when I was looking for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because all we want is out of the negative. And we think that if we're out of the negative, it has to be a positive. It's not. There's a
Yes.
space. There's a
Yes.
space for neutral.
Mm.
And I mean, I think neutral is absolutely essential to develop authenticity because, again, it's about being in a space where you have a willingness to receive. You don't go hunting,
Mm.
you're
No,
allowing. You're
no
allowing what there
expectations.
is to come.
One thing that I really go up the last couple of years is my expectations,
Mm.
except for when it comes to my son. We always expect him to do better than we did.
Yeah, but you have the awareness of it now, right? And that makes it so much
Mm. I
like
think
it's
I
looser.
take my expectations down to just say, well, I just want him to be happy.
Yeah.
But that's not a good expectation either because the world is pretty negative at the time. So the young ones often fall into that negativity. I realize
Yeah.
because they are judging themselves over stuff that, like Jesse say, an unresolvable loop.
Yeah.
They don't realize it's inside them.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's looking for the answers out there somewhere.
Yeah.
And deep down they know the truth of it, but no one is validating it or supporting them in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And that is the dis-ease.
Yeah.
Mm.
I would agree with that, Jess. Very much.
So, and I think, Heinz, I think you work with intuition. Because as you said, it's like in neutral, what you do is you speak to what rises in the middle. You speak to what comes up out of the nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
but
like to,
I don't have an idea about what that is. It just comes to me.
yeah,
Yeah, but that's it.
you don't, there doesn't need to be. You trust what comes up and you deliver.
Mm.
Working with intuition doesn't mean to say that you're always right. It's something completely different.
Oh,
It's a practice. It's practicing. So there's a decoding of the message. So I call it the decoding of the pull, a decoding of the draw of the deep knowing. The mind has to decode it into words.
oh, so that's why it's a feeling that comes up, and then I sort of have to, how do I explain this feeling?
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
well
Oh,
put. I couldn't get to that. Thank you.
I have some of those, but or a lot of them, but uh, I just explain it with, well, what feels right to say? No, that's not the word. I need to
Yes.
sort of tweak it a little more the other way around.
That's
Exactly. Yeah.
that's
Why didn't people
that's
tell me that was intuition?
Oh, yeah.
that is why a safe place is necessary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you have to practice putting your words to your feelings.
Yeah.
Mm.
And we have to do it out loud. But when do we do it out loud is only when we are around people.
Oh no, oh no, I talk to myself all the time.
But it's a different.
Sometimes I have a pretty good argument.
Good, good. Uh, and I will say most people don't have a conversation with themselves out loud by themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I found that people look strangely at me. I'm talking to me. No, I'm talking to myself. I'm having an intelligent conversation, but out.
Right? And the automatic is to judge you as crazy.
Yeah. And then they tell themselves he's a crazy person. And who are
Mhm.
they talking to?
Mhm. Is,
Themselves telling them
is,
that I'm crazy.
mhm.
Yeah. But I've come to the realization I don't care what people think because no matter what I do, half the world is gonna say it's great, the other half is gonna say it's not great.
That's
So
right.
why do I even care?
Yeah.
That's
I
the
can't change
point.
their mind. It's their assignment to change their own mind.
Hmm.
It's not mine.
Yep. And
I can only give suggestions. Only suggestions.
yep. And, and so when people say, oh, intuition is a gut feel, it's like part of that is true. But then what you've got to be very careful of is the word instinct,
Mm.
because that instinct is so connected to our patterning.
Mm. It is.
Because
Or
in
and our gut is connected to our patterning.
it is that's the feeling aspect, the feeling rather than the deep knowing,
Yeah. And deep
the
listening.
and deep listening. So it's the mind, the body, which is the feeling, the mind is the rational words, and then you have a pole of the deep knowing.
Mhm.
So it's all three of these communication systems that don't communicate the same way.
See, this was the 1001 time I heard it, and now it made sense with
Mm.
intuition because
Mm.
all the other words were sort of, what?
Mm.
What do you mean? I have it inside. Why didn't I just say trust your feelings?
Mm.
Because it's not that.
And
The
also,
feelings are just it's the feelings are the information.
yes.
Mm.
It's not necessarily trusting them. It's exploring them. It's what are they saying? Which one is
Yeah.
saying it? And what do I do with it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa. So it's a cooperation between mind and emotions, putting words to what does this emotion mean?
And the soul.
Yes.
Because I remember when I was doing the White Cloud free course, and I felt somebody like he was a football player. How does it feel that somebody is a football player? I asked myself that, how can you say that it felt like that? But it was actually pretty right on. A football player just in life, that he was sort of the what's the captain of the team and doing everything like a football team. So, and he also played soccer, but that's what I meant when I said football.
Intuition is going to share as much information in the shortest burst of energy.
Mm,
So if it's like, oh, a football player, right? And it's like, then we lock ourselves into a football player when really the football player could be just a metaphor.
yeah.
And that's the discernment is like, well, is it a metaphor or is there some deep, or is it really like that? And it doesn't matter. It's the exploration between them.
Mm,
That's why I think that deep listening is so important with intuition,
I agree.
because that's part of the exploring. That's how you do the exploring, right?
mm,
And your patterns, your experience, your past is going to want to filter it a certain way, which is a
Yes,
biased, which
yes,
doesn't reveal all that the intuition metaphor may be trying to tell you.
yeah,
And you'll
yeah.
know when you're off. That's the feeling aspect of it. You feel you're off.
yeah,
And then the ego butts in.
Hmm.
But,
And
but, but.
yeah, because the ego puts the words to it.
and the ego and instinct are very closely aligned.
They are the,
Yeah.
yes. Except for when we were a child, a newborn baby, it was like the intuition led, I believe.
Mm,
Yeah,
So it's like we have a starting position where it was there. We just moved away from it. So now we've come full circle back into it.
yeah,
Use it with our experiences. And that is where the power is.
yeah, yeah.
today's recording on YouTube is gonna make somebody very happy to understand intuition in a different way. This is a great explanation of intuition because people haven't explained it this way to me. They sort of said, well, you must know what it means. What?
Mm,
That's the great thing about the thing we are doing. We are exploring words and their meaning and diving into them. And the deeper we go, the more easy it is to understand it. That's the yes and. Yes and.
yes, and it also employs the could.
Mm.
Yes. And it is the conductor.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it's the internal conductor. It
That's
is.
right. That's right. It's each of us are our own conductor of our intuition.
Yeah, yeah,
Yet we get our insight and then we put our experience, our past, our rational mind into it, and it does a disservice to the intuition.
yes, it does because it shuts it down.
Mhm. But we all know because we are dissatisfied still, and the feeling of unfulfillment, the feeling of stress, the feeling of worry, like we'll all be there because we still haven't found what it was.
Mm,
It's still unresolved. And of course, it'll circle back around so you can change your story about it, but the feeling won't change.
mm,
Mm.
very good point. Very, very, very good point.
And so, yeah, if someone does listen to it and all the way to the end, they may get something important, maybe get something useful out of it.
Mm. So
So get
I
more
was,
perspective.
yeah, yeah. The the question that I had before you started with this, Jess, was it was also related to our conversation. Was that when we okay? So how would my question would be: can the coordinates that we choose influence the structure?
Yes, if you choose them.
Mm.
Ah, okay.
So often it's just automatic structures, not a choice structure. Choice requires the awareness. Automatics don't.
Yes, and still in the choosing, because that, I mean, as we were going back and forth yesterday, I had never before honed in on what I experienced as we were going back and forth, and the experience was sometimes all you need to do is just change one coordinate, just choose a different one, and you'll change the structure.
Oh, yes, just one point. You only need to change one point.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's no longer the same structure. That's the wiggle.
Yes, that's right.
Just one thing's got to change, and it's completely different.
Yeah, it's so interesting. The different angles that we come at a thing with, hey?
You know, that's the danger of the fixedness. That's the danger of fixing it.
Yes.
Like fixing from a permanent standpoint, not
Yeah.
because it's broken.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, with one standpoint, you always get the same point of view.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The analogy, right? Rubber stamp it.
Yeah. And we rubber stamp it because it's worked. And so then we want to collect things that work
Yep. Yep.
because that gives us a sense of safety,
Yep.
right?
Control, certainty,
Yeah.
a feeling of comfort. That's all
Mm-hmm.
it gives us, a feeling of comfort.
Mm.
Doesn't mean it works or it means that it's the best thing. It just feels comfortable.
Yeah.
Danger, 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 danger. Yes, that is comfortable as danger.
I know. I
Not
know.
from not
Yeah.
from our senses,
Yeah.
but from
Yeah.
an intuition standpoint, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because I think there's a there's a misunderstanding and a lack of discernment between comfortable and rest. Rest and restore are essential. Comfortable is not.
Mm-hmm.
It's not essential. In fact, it can do the opposite in
Mm-hmm.
terms of our growth.
Yeah, yep.
It stunts our growth, right?
And you sometimes just settle in to comfortability. Just just let everything rest right here. Just settling in, not doing anything, exploring after there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so. I mean, for me, this is a little bit of a useful discernment breakthrough that I've had because when I'm sick and my body needs to rest, I fight that rest because I I kind of I fight it until I collapse, and it's not efficient. And I think I got to it with this round where I was so frustrated about being sick again. And then, I mean, in the beginning, I was so sick, I could not do anything. So that was, there was no argument.
And so you're behind in your productivity. You're behind in productivity.
Yes.
And and yeah,
Yeah, and instead, what I've been able to come to is, and I think that's why I can now discern between being comfortable and resting, is that when I have to rest, what I said to myself was, enjoy the rest, and then it's not a waste because you're
yeah,
preparing your body and you're keeping your body in a place of peace.
that to me sounds like intuition. That you
Mm,
discerned the message that was in there to say that is what it meant.
mm,
And you're
mm.
trying it to say, no, that was the, now you're looking back and validating what you've learned or what you've seen from it. So then you can then trust that aspect again in the future. You
Yes,
can trust that intuition again because it broke through the pattern, right? You allowed you to see the pattern. You went through it to explore it. And it's like, oh, then that was a powerful lesson. That's why it can't be the experience, right? Because there's a lesson to be learned.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because every
And
time you're sick, it is trying to tell you you're looking at it in the wrong way. That intuition is trying to tell you to look at it a different way, yet your patterns aren't, your history isn't allowing you to.
yes, yes. And the for me the key aspect was, that so when I'm resting, I don't have to be sleeping. I can be I can be watching things and working with my imagination.
Yeah.
And
Late
that's part of the preparation then for when I recover.
resting can be in silence.
Yes,
And
yes,
that's I feel it now where it's like, oh, I just need to go lie down on the couch and just let the mind go.
yeah, yeah,
Feel. And it's not like I'm looking for anything. I'm not asking a
no,
question. I'm just resting.
yeah. And in that,
I'm
sorry, Jess, go.
go. I'm calm. I'm at peace and allowing just to go.
Yeah, yeah,
It's it, it'll pop out of nowhere and say like I it'll just pop up and say you just need to lie down. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
It's subtle. It's that
yes,
pole that has the words, but it's that I've listened to it. It becomes easier to discern what is it that it's saying
yeah,
because it will tell me what intuition is to tell you what the next action needs to be.
yes. And also, like in that prep, sorry, let me circle back. So what I was going to say to you about, in that silence, you're just letting your mind go, but you're observing it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
But
And
yep,
that's the key.
yep. It's the like you can allow the imagination to go rather than feeling guilty that I'm not producing something
Exactly.
or not working, quote working. It's like no, you're doing a much bigger work.
That's right. That's right, because you're preparing
Yep,
and in that preparing, you're making sure that the foundation to what your next action is authentic. And that
that's
is
right.
your best way of um of being able to build something that is stable, not fixed, but stable. And you need stability to be able to go into the adaptive zone and be flexible in that adaptive zone to receiving new information.
And you will get your intuition wrong.
Yeah, it's part of it's, but that's why I said it's not about getting it right.
Exactly. But so many people think intuition has to be right, and it's like no, it's like it's intuition is just the message.
Yeah, yeah, and
What
it's
you get right or wrong is the discernment of the message, but it's also part of the learning. It's like, oh, I have to go this way with it. It's like, oh, shit, wrong way. I got to change. It's like, oh,
exactly.
but you don't know what you're accumulating or when you're going to need it in the future. It just becomes part of the experience, which is that becomes the knowledge in the past that months, years, decades later, you could say, oh, that's why I explored it.
Yes, and also when you go with what comes to you, you're that pathway is a unique pathway for you to
Hmm.
follow to get to the perspective that you are going to best be able to use. I mean, for me, that is where perfect order comes in. And it has nothing to do with right and wrong.
That's right. And so, so anyone that has made it this far in the YouTube learning, the Zoom link is in the home of this page of this YouTube channel. So there is the link for you to join this call. See, that's just intuition saying it needs to be announced for someone that made it this far.
Yeah, yeah.
It's an invitation to join us in this call further than just on a recording.
Well, that's a good idea. I was just thinking, so if we want to introduce people and give them the option of joining, then we invite them to subscribe to the channel and then they can get the link. So they can
They don't even,
listen in first
yep.
and decide whether they want to join or not.
No, the people that have been engaged this long through a talk like this is people I would want to join on the live call with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I didn't think of that. Thanks, Jess. Because I've been thinking about introducing people and not always, sure about it, but that's a really nice way to do it.
People, I've not hiding it, but people might just have to look around for it.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I'm not going to announce it or like here it is. It's like come because that's forcing people into it. I want people that are willing to go and hunt for it to find it because
yeah,
it's right there.
yeah, yeah.
It's right there. See,
That's where a lot of
this is marketing. This is selective marketing in the way, right? It's like no, someone that's serious. They've said no all the way along the way, but someone that's serious that says yes.
Mm, mm.
Someone that this resonates with says yes, and it's like, oh, I gotta find how to get in. Like, how do I get with these guys? How do I have a conversation with them? And it's like, oh, it's right there.
Yes.
Please join us. It's an invitation.
we don't have any solutions. We have just opportunities.
We just have
Oh,
space, just space.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I also love that discernment between solutions and opportunities, Hans. That's really well put.
Yeah. We give our perspective on whatever you have. You can get a third, fourth, and fifth eye. That's
Yes.
evolution. You don't even need your third eye to see this. We'll spot you one.
Yeah, and it's it's every morning, and I say, come as little or as long as you want.
Yeah. Great energy with great people.
Mhm. That's fireside.
Yeah.
Mm.
It haven't changed the last 10,000 years.
Nope.
Nope.
We just it's a metaphor, right? Like we don't have the fire, but yet we do. We have the fire that's inside of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a feeling that the fire back then were for a different cause. It was to keep them warm and so they could see each other and
Mm-hmm.
who they were talking to. But now it's more on a spiritual level. We know who we are talking to. Friends.
Mm.
And they were probably at a different spiritual level than we are.
Oh yeah, much more connected with nature.
Mm.
Yep. And so we get to like that part of that tapping into the that which is our history.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mm.
Ah, what a great start to the day.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you
Both
so
have a beautiful day.
Thank you, you too.
you too, Hans. Thanks so much too.
Thank you. Bye all.